Golf Registrations is a premier provider of online golf tournament registration and management tools, providing web-based software and planning tools to help nonprofits, schools, and businesses manage auctions and golf tournaments more efficiently. We are very pleased to welcome our key presenter today, Debbie Waitkus. Debbie is a business golf tournament and professional speaker, president of Women in the Golf Industry, and owner of Golf for Cause, a company that delivers business golf events, education, and golf tournament consultation. Over the next 45 minutes, Debbie will provide guidelines, tips, and examples from her years of experience to help your organization better plan and implement more successful golf tournaments. During the webinar, we welcome you to send questions to the organizer via the chat feature on your toolbar. We will pause a couple of times during the presentation for Debbie to address questions. Okay, at this point, I'll turn it over to Debbie for the presentation.
Well, thanks, Lisa, and many thanks to all of you for joining us for today's webinar. I know that this might be the first rodeo for some of you, so I'll keep that in mind as I present. Yet, if there's something that you'd like clarified, like Lisa had explained, please use the chat function on your toolbar. And please know that you're also welcome to contact me after the webinar. My contact information is right there on the screen. In the next 45 minutes, I'm going to address three main topics related to having a successful charity golf tournament. Getting clear on the objectives for your event. Secondly, how to drive sponsors to your event rather than another. And then three, smooth day of event registration. And for all three of these topics, I'll include ways that using a tournament software management system like golfregistrations.com, how it's helped our clients simplify and enhance their events, and therefore might be able to help you as well. Now, for clarifying event objectives, I want you to imagine you have a friend, John, and he's the golfer that your friends know always keeps his golf clubs in the car. He's always ready to play. He gets that call, John, we have an open spot in our foursome this afternoon at this tournament. It's a 1 p.m. shotgun start. Can you play? Well, John did play in the event, but he couldn't stick around for the dinner reception because it wasn't part of his plan when he walked out the door that morning. What do you suppose he remembered about the event? About the charity? Do you think he remembered anything other than the friends he played with? When you're planning your golf tournament, your audience has a limited focus. It could be someone just like John who was that last-minute attendee. So what you need to do, your job, is to engage as many guests as possible, including the Johns, so that they do what? You need to fill in that blank. What do you want them to do? Do you want them to donate, to join your organization, volunteer, send you referrals? They want to tell others about you. Do you want them to attend other events or programs that you offer? What is it? What do you want their next step to be? You have to clarify your what. Next, who you are will determine who your target audience is. Are you like a grassroots type organization where your audience is going to be mostly friends and family, or are you a little bit more corporate so that you've got suppliers and customers involved? Are you looking at attracting core golfers like John, or folks that perhaps play occasionally? And then the how. This helps you determine your format, your on-course activities, celebrities if you're going to have any, what theme you'll have, the creative for your collateral materials, and most importantly, the type of venue. Are you going to have a budget or value venue, or are you going to have a wow course that maybe has some difficulty? And what type of facilities will you need to have at the venue for perhaps your reception? Or do you need room for a silent auction or an audio-visual presentation? Let's walk through two examples to illustrate the what, who, and the how. And now both of these groups do happen to use golfregistrations.com for their tournament management, so you can actually go online later and check out their sites. I'll give you the website addresses at the end of the webinar. The first one is AZ Crew, Arizona Commercial Real Estate Women, and they put on an event called Golf Fiesta. The what for AZ Crew? When they started out, they wanted to create connectivity with their membership. This wasn't about raising money. It was about creating a sense of community within the organization and the board. And then their approach was, look, if we raise any money, oh, how great. Let's donate it to, and they picked a charity. Okay? The WHO, they were going to attract members and their contacts. And remember now, many of these were going to be women and would be new golfers. So this drove the how, using a scramble format, which was very fun. They also added a caddy auction, which took place a few weeks prior to the tournament, which they auctioned off guys to help you with the foursomes during the round. The tournament had lots of contests, presentation tables on the course at each of the holes for meet and greets out on the course, and including, of course, one for the association itself and one for the charity that they adopted. Because remember, if John is in our field, we want him to know why he's there. Okay, a second example of what, who, and how. Marilyn Smith, she is a co-founder of the LPGA. Her what is to raise scholarship money for women to continue playing golf in college. Her who, the last couple of years, the audience has been primarily friends and family, golf fans, and aficionados. The how. The tournament format is a 4-person scramble with an additional LPGA celebrity. So it's a pro-am format. There are participating honorees. She leverages her industry relationships and her stature as a founder of the LPGA for photo opportunities, autographs. There's media coverage before and after the event. And the venue is her home course. So you can see the what, the who, and the how that paints a picture for meeting your objectives. You want to look at what your what, who, and how is. Moving on to sponsorship packages. As you may already know, the main ways that you make money through a golf tournament, they're not the price differential between the entry fee and your per player fee, but rather a special event, which could be a silent auction, a raffle, a casino night, and then secondly, your sponsorship. So how can you attract sponsors to spend money at your event rather than another? Now, why do we want sponsors anyway? Okay, I've listed 5 different bullet points there, and the first 2 are pretty straightforward, covering costs and generating revenue. The third one is about driving golfers, and there's 2 ways that we do this. And one is you can incorporate players as part of the benefits in your sponsorship package by including golfers for certain levels if they choose to buy that level. And then secondly, if company XYZ, for example, is sponsoring and supporting your event, then by guilt through association, others might be convinced that they should play or perhaps sponsor as well. The next item on the list is enhance the on-course experience. And what I mean by that is, from a player's perspective, creating more fun. So if you have a sponsorship package that might include a presentation table on one of the holes or at the putting green, allow the sponsor to run a contest and give out the prize. It's more fun for the players, there's involvement, there's engagement. And I'll give you an example of something that the AZ Crew Group has done. In the tournament last year, one of the sponsorship packages included a foursome of golf and a presentation table on the tee. There was a lot of excitement and energy out on the course with all of the players engaging with the various sponsors out on the course. When the golfregistrations.com website went up for the 2011 event, which is this May, there's a sponsorship package that is just the presentation table on its own with a T sign. The first day, 8 of those sponsorships sold. The 2010 participants and the sponsors, they wanted to lock in and be part of that fun. And if you think about it, what's the cost to the group putting on the tournament to put that table out there? It's just the T sign, because the course is going to supply the table and the chairs and what's necessary. It's not costing the group anything. So it's just another way to enhance the on-course experience for your players. Now, the last item I have on here is to forward a relationship. And through sponsorship, in essence, you can honor a relationship and promote the fact that you are aligned with a specific sponsor. So there are a lot of aspects that you can accomplish through the various sponsorship packages that you offer. Now, effective sponsorship programs are going to provide value and be thematic. Let's talk about this. The current LPGA commissioner is Mike Whan, and he recently announced that there will be a season-ending golf tournament in November called the Title Holders Event. The event will have in its field the top 3 winners from each tournament throughout the year. This is going to be a great tournament. Can you imagine the winners from all of the LPGA tournaments all playing together at the end of the year? It's going to have a very strong field. Well, the tournament isn't just to honor and recognize the best players, but more importantly, the sponsors of the events that they played in. So, for example, this past weekend, Yanni Tseng, Michelle Wie, and Kari Webb were the top 3 winners at the Honda LPGA in Thailand. Now, when they play in the Title Holders event, their caddies are going to wear bibs that have Honda LPGA Thailand on the back of them. And every time their name is mentioned, it's going to be mentioned with the fact that they were winners of the Honda event. Now, if you're Honda, do you think you're a little bit excited that you're being recognized throughout the year and especially in November in addition to your February tournament? How can you convey the perception of value? Not all of us have that LPGA tie-in in a title holders event. So what is it that you do have that you can use from your group, from your organization, to convey that perception of value? Well, let's start with a website presence. It can be your organization's website. It could be a golf tournament website like golfregistrations.com. And know that your sponsor's name gets included on there, a link to their website, and even a logo banner. The Golf Fiesta 11 that you're seeing there on the left-hand side of the screen is actually the logo that you will see if you go to the Golf Registrations website for this tournament. That's on every page, and don't you think Roofing Southwest is delighted about that? You can also, as I had mentioned, put a presentation table on the tee. And not only is that fun for the players, but what a nice opportunity for your sponsors to be able to meet and greet all the players and that could be prospects for them. Now, is your organization, do you have monthly meetings or any type of regular meeting? If you do, you can put a table up at the back of the room and allow your top sponsors or any of your sponsors to put literature out. You could actually do a PowerPoint presentation. If you already do one, throw their logos in during the walk-in time, do a shout-out from the mic to thank them. Same thing for a newsletter, if your organization has a newsletter included in that as well. Do you happen to throw another big event, like a ball or a gala of some sort? What you could build into one of your sponsorship packages is the opportunity to have a table at the ball. What about a photo opportunity with various celebrities or getting autographs? Or even do a VIP clinic or a pre-event or post-event golf outing, mixing your top sponsors with key members of your organization. There are some common ones like putting a logo on a tea gift item that can be seen and used again and again. These are all things that create value for a particular sponsor. And as I said before, not everyone has the ability to hold a title holders event like the LPGA, but I want you to think about what do you have or have access to that would be of value that you can leverage. What's unique about your event or your organization that you can parlay to provide additional value that your sponsor can't find anywhere else. Okay, moving on to the thematic aspect. As you paint a picture for your event, consider being thematic with the names of your sponsorship levels. When you promote the names of the various levels on your literature and on your tournament website, you're actually branding your event. So commonly you'll see things like par, birdie, eagle. Okay, those can be names for your sponsorship levels, and they're very cute golf terms, but they don't convey anything unique as it relates to your event or who you are. Let me give you some examples. General, colonel, captain, lieutenant. These were sponsorship names for the West Point Parent Club tournament. Academic, library, enrichment, financial aid, spirit. This was a school's golf tournament. And one more for you. Angel, 'Twas the Night Before, holiday cheer, winter wonderland, snowflake. Yeah, this was a holiday tournament. Again, this all helps brand your event and gives you something to build upon for the future. Successful sponsorships provide value. They use a theme to provide and brand your event and or your organization. So use them to the best that you can. Now, before we leave sponsorship, Lisa, do we have any questions to address?
Let me check here. No, it doesn't look like we have any questions, Debbie, so let's keep going.
Okay, good. Well, let's look at some tips on how to maximize your revenue opportunities at registration without creating a bottleneck. You want people out on the course having a good time, not standing in line. And this is another place where the golfregistrations.com tournament management software system can be very, very helpful. Like anything else, whatever preparation you can do in advance will contribute to an even better result. We're going to tap 4 different areas here for your advanced prep work. The volunteers, your tee gift items, a mulligan package, I'll explain more about that, and then communication. I want you to think of a time that you call a company on the phone. You're greeted by the lovely automated attendant, and she tells you to press 2 for the company directory. Now, you need to punch in the name. Let's say you're on your BlackBerry. Well, for those of you with BlackBerrys, you know that the numbers don't have the standard letters on them. Like number 3, for example, being the D, E, and F letters. Okay, so you decide to bail out and you hit 0 hoping to get a live body at the front desk. Well, instead you're dumped into the general voicemail. Okay, your next call is to a company with a woman who answers the phone with that bounce in her voice, and you can just hear her smiling. This is Lisa. How can I help you? Okay, your volunteers at registration are your front desk. They're that person answering the phone. Your volunteers are the people who can help set the tone for your guests for the rest of their day. Now, is your guest going to enjoy the process as she goes through the line, or is she going to feel like she barely survived some sort of boot camp with maybe a few dollars to spare in her pocket? Now, from your personal perspective, let's say your event has an early morning shotgun start. So you need to get there very early, and your volunteers need to arrive very early. Can you imagine telling them your expectations for them on the fly, where you have a million details flying around in your head? Would you have the patience to make sure that they understand what you're asking of them? And what about that very helpful soul? Okay, I'm done with that. How can I help you now? What else do you have for me? What can I do next? How easy is it for you to stop in your tracks and think about what you could give them to do? Well, it's not. So here you go. A great tip for your volunteers is to schedule a training in advance. About 1 week prior to your event date, schedule an on-site training for your volunteers, on-site, especially for those who are going to work registration. Okay, number 1, you know that they can get to the venue if you schedule it on-site. Now, if it's impossible to do that, at least do a conference call. You'll be able to identify the candidates for your specific roles. You'll be able to look at, are they outgoing? You know, they're very social, so would they be able to sell people on stuff? Or do they need to be down at the end where they're just taking the money because they're not as interactive? What's their experience? Are they golfers? Have they done a registration before? Have they volunteered previously? And do they want to partner with a particular friend? What times are they available? You'll be able to get all this information out. And then you can clarify the job descriptions, including the times that you expect them to be working. You also can hand out, if you all agree what your attire is going to be, maybe there's a specific hat or a shirt that you want the volunteers to wear, you can hand those out right then and there so they show up the day of the event with the item, you know that it fits, and you're all good. And then you're going to do a dry run. Pretend that you have someone registering and walk right through the line, right through the process. Your tournament software, it allows you to print out a team pairing sheet, so do it. And let the volunteers see an advanced copy and ask questions about it, because that way they'll know exactly what they're working on the day of and how to use it, especially when they're in the heat of the moment. Now, I'm going to address more about the volunteer roles in a few minutes, but let's go to the T-gift items and talk about the stuff we all get. If you put all of the gifts into a bag, I encourage you to drop off the filled bags at the golf course prior to your event. Have a stuffing party a few days beforehand, and then go ahead and drop them off at the golf course. And ask the golf course staff to place the bags on the golf course. You want to declutter, on the golf carts. You want to declutter registration as much as possible. And think about, before you throw all those items into the bag, consider whether or not any of the items could actually be gifted out at one of the holes, because people love to get more stuff, and wouldn't a sponsor be just delighted to be featured like that? If you are ordering sized items as your gift that you're giving out, the golfregistrations.com registration section, use it, and you can gather the sizes as part of the registration process. When the person signs up as an individual golfer or for their sponsorship, it will flag them to actually list out what size shirt they would like, and whether it's men or women, and the whole size information. This gives you a great idea as to how many of which size to order in advance. And you can make the fields mandatory. Then you're going to have an area, it'll be after when folks have made it through registration past the cashier, where the sized items are going to be gifted. Again, you want to clear the registration area. If it's shirts, have the sizes laid out in piles with a sample to hold up for sizing. If it's shoes, it's a designated area to sit down and try them on. Again, beyond the registration line. You never want to pre-label your items either. You'll be searching for the one that's missing or was picked up by someone else in the foursome, and then there's always John. Remember, he filled in for somebody else, and maybe that somebody else was a XXL and John's a medium. So, you know, always never pre-label it. It just adds too much administration before and during and then after to get the right size to somebody. Keep things as simple as possible. Moving on to the Mulligan package. When I say package, I want you to create a package by bundling the Mulligans, some on-course contests, drink tickets, raffle tickets, things like that. Still leave something out that you're going to ask for cash out on the course, because people will expect it, but you don't want to hit them up time and time again. But if you bundle the things together, package it, give it a fun thematic name, again, include it as a product on your golfregistrations.com registration area, and give it a little description so that you can encourage people to buy it prior to the event. This will save a lot of time at registration and having to explain and sell it to every guest on the day of the event. You want to be able to keep that line moving. And by bundling those things together, people don't feel as beat up by the time they get to the end of the line, because you've sold them a bundle of pretty much everything. If you give it a fun name like your holiday bundle, your fiesta package, for Maryland's tournament we called it the Maryland package, and then price it in line with kind of where your price point is for your event. If you've got a more of a budget type of an event, maybe it's at the $25 range. In the middle, maybe $45. A higher end event, maybe it's $75. You have a range to work with. But again, bundle that up together, and that will speed things up and generate a lot of additional revenue for you. And next we'll talk about communication. A great way to prevent bottlenecks at registration is to simply send an email as a reminder to the players several days prior to your event. The tournament registration system, it's going to capture your participants' email addresses. And it even includes an area where you can generate the email directly from the system, and you can email multiple email addresses and it will not spam. So what you want to do is send the players detailed information about the tournament. For example, registration begins at 6:30. Please do not let the volunteers be the only ones on site enjoying the coffee and continental breakfast. You're going to be able to give them directions, the times that you expect them to be there, and again, the stuff the volunteers will have for them to buy at registration and to gift. And maybe you'll even explain to them, you'll pick up your shoes at registration inside the clubhouse. You can give additional teasers and excitement. Let them know what kind of contests you're going to have. Maybe something about some of the raffle prizes, which will entice them to want to buy more raffle tickets, or even some of the silent auction items or celebrities they can expect to see. This is another place where you can recognize your sponsors as well. List them out and thank them. Invite the guests to patronize them. And then you also want to include just a little reminder that if you're the lead person in this foursome, please forward this email to your playing partners, just in the event that a person has changed perhaps, or maybe you didn't actually have all the names of all of the players or their email addresses. The communication is very, very helpful. Here's a little bit more on communication, but this is more from the volunteer and from your event planning perspective. Now, right over here on the right-hand side is a poster that we place out. This was for one particular tournament at the beginning of the registration line. So this is before they've been welcomed by your front line, so to speak, where they can actually see the things that are available to buy in the event that they didn't read the email that you sent them a few days ago. This is a reminder again so that they'll be prepared once they hit registration, once they get greeted. Now, note also on the left-hand side here, see these placards? They're two-way placards which have the same information as the poster on the right-hand side. The guest can see it, the volunteer can see it. So if they need to know how many tickets they're giving out, when things get busy, people get a little bit nervous. Now, just as an aside, in the very back here, do you see this plasma screen? Okay. This is a PowerPoint recognizing the sponsors, just a little bit adding additional value. Now let's go back to registration roles. I alluded to this earlier when talking about the volunteers and preparing them. Now, assuming you have a full field, and a full field is typically anything from 120 to 140 players when you're playing on one 18-hole golf course. I would suggest that you have 4 to 5 players who would be down here at this end to check in your guests. These are the people who are going to smile and welcome them and give them that great first impression. And each of those those volunteers are sitting with a copy of your pairings sheet that you generated from your tournament software. These folks I like to call the checker-inners, and they're going to be the welcomers. Then you have the folks in the middle, where you'll have 3 to 4 people right in the middle here who are what I want to call the giver-outers. They're going to hand out the things that they bought at registration in the package, and they also can upsell anything else. Maybe it's additional raffle tickets or another extra something. And if you notice very carefully here, this woman, lost my mouse here, this woman has some raffle tickets that she's handing out. When you have maybe 3 tickets, 10 tickets, whatever quantity it is that you're giving out, have all of those pre-cut. You don't want to take the time to be rolling them out at that point in time. You want those pre-cut so you can just zip them and hand them over to the guest. Now, at the other end, further to the left here, would be where your checkout gang is. And these are the people who are going to process the money and then move them along and tell the guest whatever it is that they're supposed to do next, and to let them know what's available for them, whether it's food or trying something on or something along those lines. I would suggest that when you have a full field, that you want at least 2 credit card machines, possibly more. And keep in mind that the venue you're at will most likely only have 1 phone line that you can plug in. So if you can use wireless systems, that's going to be your best bet and the way to go. And I invite you to please check them out on site at least a week in advance, because if they're not going to work, they might have bad cell service where you are when you're using the wireless ones. If there are issues, you want to know about those in advance so that you can put together a plan B rather than on the morning of or the day of your event. Now, one more thing I want to point out to you here. See the guy in the background here, in the middle of the picture? His job that day, along with one other person, was to work the line. Now, he had a clipboard in hand with the pairing sheet, along with an 8.5 by 11 version of what you see on the right. His job was to sell the guest on the package and anything else, so that once the guest gets to the front of the line, he or she was already informed and ready to buy. So you have 1 or 2 people you're assigning to work the line should there be any line that's gathered. And then these work the line folks can also troubleshoot any issues that might come up. So you now have some great ideas on how to prevent the bottlenecks at registration and to start your guests off as very happy campers. Preparing your volunteers, stage how you gift out the swag, package your items at registration, and communicate expectations with your guests. Okay, Lisa, do we have any questions about registration?
Thank you for all of that information, Debbie. Let me take a look here. We do have one question. When people sign up online, does the money raised go to golf registrations or the website company, or directly to my organization?
Okay, what will happen is when your guests go ahead and purchase online in advance, you will actually, if they're paying by credit card, it is your system. It could be PayPal. It could be, there are, I believe, 10 to 12 different credit card companies or processing systems that are compatible, at least with golfregistrations.com. And the money will flow through directly to your system. It will never, ever be touched by golfregistrations.com. If you are paying by check, what happens is that the system will automatically spit out an email to the person who has registered, and it will say, hey, Lisa, I'm so glad you're joining us. Thank you. Here's where you mail your check. We look forward to seeing you on September 12th. And Lisa, let's say that you signed me up to play with you. I'm actually going to get an email as well that acknowledges that you have signed me up, and I need to save the date and watch for further information. But in essence, it will spit out the thank you email either way, whether or not you've paid by credit card or paid by check. But with the check aspect, it will actually give you the directions on how much and where, and will actually be your receipt at the same time. Any other questions?
I don't see any other questions in here, but one last chance. If anybody has a question, please chat those through your control panel to the organizer, and I'll jump in and ask Debbie here.
Okay. Well, overall, we've addressed these 3 topics in ways that a tournament management software can help you be even more successful with the organization and execution aspects of your tournament. So we looked at clarifying your event objectives, your what, your who, and your how. various sponsorship packages, as well as smooth day of event registration. And I'd like to thank golfregistrations.com for sponsoring this webinar. Thank you, Julie, Lisa, and Carrie, the people behind the scenes. And thank all of you for joining us. You're welcome to reach out with comments and questions. The contact information is on the screen. And I want you to know also that golfregistrations.com offers a free trial if you'd like to test the software. And I do invite you to check it out. It's what I recommend for all of my clients. And if you want to see the software in action, on the lower left there are 2 URLs for the 2 tournaments that I referenced earlier in the presentation, the AZ Crew Golf Fiesta Tournament as well as the Marilyn Smith Tournament. I invite you to tee up your tournament for success and turn golf into gold.